So today I'm going to be talking about Leonard Lake and Charles Nick. These two men were one of the most notorious teen serial killers in the United States. So I'll be talking about them individually and how they were as a team throughout their murdering years. So they began killing in 1983 and ended in 1985. So Leonard, he had a pretty troubled childhood, being bounced around from home to home until he was 6, and then he ended up living with his grandparents. And people often described him as, arrogant and standoffish, but quiet. And he was in the military, but he was discharged because he had some unknown medical issues and reported psychotic features. So he was discharged and he moved to another part of California where he would later meet Charles Nick. And Charles Nick, he also had a rough childhood, but mostly out of his own decisions. His dad was a very wealthy man out of Hong Kong, which is where Charles was born, and he tried to get Charles to stay out of trouble, but he kept getting expelled from many schools, and he also built a criminal record. And then he moved to the United States, and he was not a legal citizen, and he went into the Marines as well. He got detained because he was stealing military-grade weapons. So after that, he moved to California, where he would later meet Leonard Lake. And so what the two of them did was lure women into this underground bunker that they built and rape and torture and eventually shoot or strangle them. And afterwards, they would cut up the bodies using power tools and then incinerate them and bury the bone fragments in ash. And in this underground bunker, they had multiple rooms and watch windows so that they could watch each other while they took turns torturing their victims. And they killed both men and women. The women were being used as sex slaves, mostly is what motivated them. And they only killed men to get their money or their identification. And so their first victims were Leonard's neighbors, and they killed them out of convenience because they were easy to lure down. And they lured them by putting ads in the newspaper and promising them work. That's how a majority of them came. And then next, they killed a woman by the name of Kathleen Allen, and she was actually recorded on one of their videotapes, and the tapes still are out there. You don't see any of the killings or the rape and torturing, but you do see them talking to the victims and saying really awful things, and that is what is available to the public. Next, another person who was also recorded, her name was Brenda, and Leonard and Charles killed her 2-year-old son and her fiance. Then they also killed another family of 3 called the Dubs family, another little boy and a wife and a husband. And then there was more. When the FBI came to investigate, they found 45 pounds of bone fragment, and they say that there's at least 25 victims that Leonard and Charles killed together, but the body count is still unknown to this day. But yeah, that was Leonard Lake and Charles Nick.